Hi everyone, we're so happy to see all of you here. I'm Parmesh, welcome to the Godrej DI Lab. We are very excited to partner with the Keshav Suri Foundation and the Lalit Group of Hotels for this event, along with so many of our other partners like Access for All, Man Youth for Jobs. So can we just, this is going to be an event of celebration and lots of love, so can we just clap for all our wonderful collaborators. And also for all the amazing students who've come. All the students, can you raise your hands? I know there are students from, thank you, you have come, many of you have come from SCM, HID, SIBM, Atlas, NM, I think there's some NM people in the house as well. Yeah, the 3 ones, very good. So thank you for coming from all across the city as well as from other cities as well for this. We're truly grateful. A couple of months ago we decided, we ran the Godrej India Culture Lab for 10 years, and we decided that the new avatar of the lab would be very much about a more focused DI lab where DI stands for Diversity, Equity and Inclusion, and where we focus very much on helping our group companies at Godrej as well as the ecosystem in our country and the world at large to become more inclusive. So this is the second event. We had one a couple of weeks ago on this very stage itself, where we had Lee Badgett, we had Fabrice, we had Srini, we had so many queer icons and experts talk about how you can advance LGBTQ inclusion, and this is the follow-up event to that. This is also the week, a few days ago was the International Day for People with Disabilities, and so we're marking it in this week. And hopefully, these are conversations we don't only have on special days or weeks, but we take forward all the time in our workplaces as well. There's going to be some videos in which, for those who need, there will be audio description. So here's, I know some of you have already given that to us as well. So the number for say the videos that are coming up, if anyone else wants an audio description over WhatsApp, the number is 91318 45640. If you can just send us a message right now, we will send you the audio description immediately as well. I'll repeat that. It's 91318 45640. Now, before I introduce you to Myra, who's going to be our moderator for the day, and then you experience this conversation as well. 2 things first. After the conversation here, please do check out the wonderful photo exhibit outside. All the photographs, these are award-winning photographs, all of whom have been clicked by persons with disabilities. These are the winners of that challenge. And we also have a bunch of amazing stalls selling products made by people with various kinds of, neurodiverse and so on as well. So there's a bunch of stalls. Everything is for sale, so you can, show your support by actually buying some of these products as well. We have a bunch of launches for today, which is truly historic. We're going to do 2 right now and then 1 towards the end of this event. So the first launch that we will do is actually going to be an amazing book by our partners, Siddhant and Access for All. Siddhant, can you come forward? Yeah, so this is a new book. Today it's the world premiere of this book. We are going to join on the panel as well. And his mom is right here, which you'll see. His mom, who's along with others, helped make some of these necklaces and so many of the other products that you'll see as well. So a very few limited edition copies of the book are available here. So go get those at the Access for All stall as well. So then thank you for coming and launching this book with us. And there's a student discount for all of you who are coming as well. So go grab the student discount as well. Thank you, Siddhant. Thank you. I'm going to keep one of these and you're going to buy one of these and give it to actually the student who asked the best question later, okay? And the second launch is actually one from Godrej Properties. It's the first of a new video series that we've made for people with disabilities as well. Again, this is the world premiere of this video, and the whole aim is to keep on releasing more and more videos so that we can help people actually understand and collaborate more with their colleagues who happen to be people with disabilities. So we can just see that video as well.
The biggest barrier for people with disability is how society disables them with biases and limited knowledge. To become an all-inclusive and accessible organization, we need to change the way we view disability and collaborate with the community to break down barriers. Augmentative and alternative communication, AAC, means all of the ways that someone communicates besides talking. A tablet can be used as an augmentative and an alternative communication, AAC, device. A sign language interpreter is a professional who facilitates communication between a person with speech and hearing impairment and those who can hear. Indian Sign Language, ISL, is a visual gestural language used by persons with speech and hearing impairment in India. It is a unique and distinct language with its own grammar, syntax, and vocabulary, and it serves as a means of communication. Microsoft Teams offers accessibility features such as live captions and transcripts, empowering people with disabilities to engage effectively by providing real-time transcription of meetings. Another valuable way to support the community is by enabling your camera during meetings. This action assists individuals with lip reading and enhances their overall comprehension.
online on various platforms, so all of you, if you like it, it's really a good manual on how you can, tips that every organization, so I know many of you are here from colleges, for example, all of this can be done actually anywhere to create a better environment as well. So thank you. As you can see, we have adopted some of these tips as well. So we have sign language from Access for All and so many other things as well today. But actually for almost everything we do here at Godrej. So I'm now going to introduce you to Myra, who is our moderator and host for today, who will then introduce the other panelists and then begin the conversation. Myra is DI lead at Godrej Capital, which is our newest company within the group, and a passionate advocate of DI and accessibility. As a proud trans woman as well as neurodiverse individual, she brings a unique perspective and deep commitment to having these critical conversations. It's like really, really personal and very, very important. Myra's contributions to DI have earned her a recognition as a LinkedIn top voice, and this is a status that she uses to actively engage in important dialogues across. You should just follow her on LinkedIn and just see the audience she has, and drive a lot of positive change within the realm of DI. Vineet is here. Vineet, sorry we stole Myra from you, but together we're together co-creating a better Godrej and a better world together for all of us as well. So over to you, Myra, and to conduct the rest of the afternoon. Yeah.
Thank you, Parvesh, for this wonderful introduction, and I welcome everyone in today's panel discussion on inclusion of persons with disability in workplaces. On 3rd December, we mark International Day of Disability, and the theme of this year was United in Action to Rescue and Achieve the Sustainable Development Goals for, with, and by the person with disability. In this theme, by the person with disability is the most important one. When you're working on making infrastructure more inclusive, you're working on diversity hiring, or building a policy, there should be involvement of a person with disability from the planning to the execution. And we are here to continue the conversation of inclusion because it will not stop on one day. We are thankful to all our collaborators, supporters, Asia Free Foundation, Access for All, One Foundation, Youth for Job for the amazing exhibition of winners from Global ABT Photography Competition 2023, all the DI team at Godrej, Comms team, all the canteen and support staff, IT team, security team, Nareen and AV team, Herschel and video team, Ganesh from Pune Enterprises for the prints, Dan, Abhay, Sabi, Disha, Payal, and all the logos from different Godrej teams. We are also thankful to our alums who have come back and has helped us in making this event happening. So thanks a lot for it. We also have Indian Sign Language interpreter Asma from Access for All. But let's pause for a second and think. Why only workplace should be accessible? Why not our homes? On your seat, you will find a booklet on making design of home more inclusive by Godrej Properties, Godrej Properties Limited Design Studio, and Professor Raija from IIT Roorkee. So give it a time, read it, and our home, our heart should be accessible for everyone. Now I request all the panelists to come on the stage. Wonderful, so great to see all of you on one stage, all the champions of DAI. Now let me introduce you to Vineet Saraiwala, founder of Atypical Advantage, who has shifted from his corporate journey to create opportunities for persons with disabilities in India. A graduate from IIM Bangalore, Vineet, who has broken barriers, promoted disability inclusion in workplaces through various initiatives. Vineet has also sparked a conversation about inclusion with his one question, Nazar important hai ya nazariya? We have Vinya Chanakka. She is the CEO of Inclusa, focused on integrating livelihood for people with disabilities. With experience at Enable India, she led employment programs including Mission 1000, now supporting corporate India's journey towards disability inclusion at workplace. Thank you, Vinya, for joining us.
Should we clap for both of them?
Yeah. Thank you for this. Meet Anita Sharma, an entrepreneur, DI consultant, professor, researcher, podcaster, and YouTuber, known as Girl on Four Wheels. She holds India's first women skydiver record with a disability. Anita runs the Drive on My Own Foundation, providing driving training to over 500 individuals with disabilities. Meet Akshay Tyagi. He is a DI enthusiast and with extensive experience in hospitality industry. As the head of DI at the Lalit Suri Hospitality Group, he plays a crucial role in developing and implementing initiatives that foster an inclusive environment in various areas such as recruitment, employee development, and cultural awareness. Meet Siddhant Shaw. He is a co-founder of Access for All. He is a leading accessibility consultant specializing in DI requirement. He has collaborated with organizations like Museum of Prime Ministers of India, National Museum, Access Care, UNESCO New Delhi, Tata Power CSR, and more. So, thanks again everyone for joining for this panel discussion. And honestly, it's amazing to see all of you actually following your work, what you're doing in the space of inclusion, and the kind of impact you have created in the world. It's beyond work. You are changing the society at large. So, we'll open our panel discussion with Vineet. As Bhumi said, I had an opportunity to work with Vineet and ATPL Advantage, and I remember at that time, the whole team was working very extensively on this Nestle project, and the outcome is beautiful. Let's see a glimpse of it.
Inclusion for Nestle is a very important dimension of who we are. To give the space, to give the respect, to give the opportunity for people with disabilities is as much a responsibility of the larger society as it is of Nestle.
Hi, my name is Foram Joshi. I was born deaf. I got a cochlear implant done at the age of 8. I studied in a special school for 1 year, after which I shifted to a normal school. After completing my 12th standard, I went to a normal college for my graduation.
Entire phenomenon of relooking and reimagining and redesigning the process goes for all the employee life cycle processes, and it's a journey that we at Nestle have embarked on and will continuously improve.
When we first heard about that we are getting people that isn't able to open factories, there are two options. One was an easy option for find job in admin office so that we make them more comfortable. Whereas the second option was also to bring them in operations. We chose the second step, which is a bit tough. Where is the way?
When I first heard through my uncle about the opportunity at Nestle company, I was skeptical about how things will actually take place. I was confused.
I and inclusion of people with disabilities we actually bring it to life with initiatives like this.
The foremost thing you see when you enter the HR day at the Nestle HR is it's be a force for good. And I was quite lucky to have worked on a project which embodies that very end for the hire of persons with disabilities, but also planning how we can sensitize the entire manufacturing setup around this. Thankfully, Nestle had been laying some groundwork. Fundamentally, we require stick with the three principles of quality, clean, and universal design. To understand universal design, it is important to put yourselves through the lens of not just disability, but understanding of experience is highly valuable.
Then I saw how smooth the process was and applied. I first gave the online test, then interview, and then I was selected. I did not face any problems and everything was smooth. I did not face any difficulties and everything was smooth. Why? Everything was accessible and good. And now I am working over here.
I think this is a very unique approach which needed to be done, and I'm so happy that Nestle is the first one to do this.
It's been 4 months since I have been working with Nestle now. I enjoy working here. I appreciate the accessible design of Sanand factory for people with disabilities. Secondly, and most importantly, I feel safe working here and comfortable with my colleagues as they understand me. They all help me. After spending 4 months here, slowly I feel more confident in my abilities as the company has provided all the support to me. I see myself grow in my career while working here. Good food, good life.
This is going to be. It is the responsibility of each one of us to ensure that he or she has an enabling environment where he or she is understood, is given the right infrastructure and facilities. We must feel that we are part of the same Nestle family that each of us is proud of.
We are Nestle, the good food, good life company.
So amazing work, Vinny. First of all, congratulations on the successful project with Nestle. Now, we want to understand your work with Nestle on their kiosk hiring and the factory hiring as well. So, what are the challenges you have faced and what strategies you have followed to overcome the challenges?
No, I think this is obviously a great work, and just wanted to build more snippets on this, because this could be a template for any manufacturing setup for factories. For factories across India with different companies, and how everything needs to flow from the top as well as bottom. I would say, but here the chairman went ahead and said that we want to do this, and how can we make that work? So that intent was there from the top. In fact, he is now publicly stated to have 10% of the factory, the new factory in Odisha, to have people with disability. 10% is the number. So that's the first step probably. The second step, why it looks so easy for any plant, is the plant was accessible from day one. So when they were beginning the construction of the factory, it kept in mind the universal design philosophy, and that is how the new factories of Godrej also has the same thought in mind. If you don't have that in mind, because what happens is sometimes we have a myopic vision of some of these things, that why do people with disabilities work in a factory? Will they come? Do they exist? Right? And what happens is, because they had universal design in mind, we could straight away hire people with different kinds of abilities, locomotor disability, visual, hearing, because it was accessible. Otherwise, what happens is, renovating an existing premises would take a lot more capex and probably it would go and be delayed in bureaucracy. So that was probably the second step, intention of the top, physical infrastructure accessibility. And the third thing, which actually I would say is the magic of the plant heads there, and I always say people that people who are in the lower strata or even within corporates are more sensitive to DNI probably because I go all alone in flights, in airports, railway stations. I meet so many security guards. I feel I've never found any challenges. In fact, they have been extremely supportive to me. The plant who did not know how to do this. And they also had the same biases like all of us has, right? That how would a person with disability do that? And here, see, sometimes we have these basic, rigid processes, I would say, because again, Nestle is a global company, a lot of policy, processes, safety, medical, emergency, evacuation. The first battle came when we had this audiometry test, and this is a very old 1956 Factories Act, which states that audiometry test is a must. Just think for a moment, right? Can a deaf person clear an audiometry test? It doesn't make sense, right? So we needed to explain this simple thought process, and again with legal support to the argument that it is not a must for a person with hearing disability. We did the job mapping, and the plant head who was there in the video said that initially he was skeptical, but when we gave them the confidence about some of these aspects and how a person will work, we did again convince the safety team, the medical team, and all of these checks were in place. We actually took the entire team for a dinner where a lot of deaf people were serving food, and they just, that exposure I think is very important. I think that is why this representation here of people with disabilities and we coming to Godrej and sharing Nestle's story, right? Like United in Action, it can't be better the demonstration of that here. So that exposure probably to the plant team helped. In fact, how we did the sensitization session was through a magic show. So a magic show was done by people, a person with hearing disability, and she entered the premises. We did not reveal that she is deaf. And at the end, the factory worker said that if a deaf person can do magic, then work is still a smaller thing. And they got convinced, and again, initial first month I would say it was tough. What happens is, see, everyone in this 2-minute rush, right? We want to do a Dunzo and a Zomato and a Swiggy, and even do Maggie in 3 minutes. The problem with some of this is you need to give patience to some of these projects and ambitious ideas. You will not see the result in 7 days of suddenly hiring and everything is there. Because see, fundamentally, why are we doing DNI is the problem starts from when the child is born, right? So much inequality in education, physical infrastructure, attitudinal biases, and all of this only increases for them exponentially for a person with disability. And without understanding some of these fundamental inequality in society, we will never be able to solve a problem in a month or 7 days. A lot of corporates have that notion that you suddenly hire without any process, giving them time, without any sensitization, making it work. And let me tell you, the productivity of some of them is close to 1.7, 1.8 times per hour. Like they churn 1.7 times the packet of Maggie versus non-disabled people. So this will happen across all companies because it's an advantage there. But you need to give people time for this sensitization and this magic to happen. I never knew that the plant manager would learn sign language. Sometimes we actually have our own biases towards some of this thing that, hey, how could a plant suddenly know sign language? Give them time, trust them, they will make it happen. And when you see them together having lunch, that's quite beautiful in a way. In fact, I just want to close with just one small instance, and that is the importance of like a family visit. So there was a girl, her name is Purnamurthy, and she's a person with locomotor disability. Imagine she lives in Ahmedabad, traveling to Sanand 1.5 hours, and there was like, in fact, that is why transportation also needs to be accessible. So the buses were not look floor, so that she could not move her wheelchair to the bus. And sometimes in corporates, and we told the team there that hey, she would not be able to go in the transport provided. What they did is they provided an additional pick and drop service for her in a cab. And I'm not sure if other companies would go ahead and even do this, right? Because cost is such an important factor here. Obviously they did that, and the parents, sister, all of them were telling the girl not to actually go ahead and work in Nestle. What we did is we invited all their families with a family visit to the premises of the Sanand, where they saw everyone working. The manager, every team member tried to show them that this is the work, this is how they would do. And that is how like the parents got convinced of the daughter working there in Sanand. So you need to again do a lot of other things here, like could be housing, be it transportation, convincing some of these other teams in different units as such. So that's how probably we as society would move forward. And I think all of us here are born probably to solve some of these complex problems, right? Like, I think the human mind should not waste their time on solving how can they deliver grocery in a minute. So, yeah.
Thanks a lot, we for sharing this, and yeah, it's true, like, time does matter, and we should be patient when it's come to any change that we want to have. My next question is for Akshay. Akshay, I'm a neurodiverse trans person, and like basic things becomes dealing with the basic thing has been like a very challenging journey for me, dealing with dysphoria, ADHD, dyslexia, and navigating daily life and work has been difficult. We know that you work extensively with LGBTQ folks, but you have a good number of PWD employees as well, and we have seen there are intersectionalities as well. So we want to understand from you, how do you approach the intersectionality, and it would be wonderful if you can share a couple of examples.
Sure. So thank you, Namaskar everyone. I think one of the most beautiful things in our journey has been to generate that trust in people. And that is from where this entire concept of inclusion, irrespective of intersectionalities, has come in. And it has never been about we are only looking at people to come and work with us, but also looking at people as our potential customers. It is also looking at people as our potential supply chains. And that is from where the whole idea of us believing in you and expecting the same trust have come in. And that has what really helped us in our journey of inclusion so far. We have been extensively working with LGBTQI folks, and of course, with various intersectionalities, we also met a number of people who had various spectrums talking about their individual journeys. Primarily, when it comes to people with disabilities, we all need to understand and reflect back on our journeys. That when we were in school, how openly we were having conversations around disability. How many of us had classmates who were people with disabilities. And it is not always about people who have accessible washrooms or accessible desks, but also support, and when it comes to mental health support, when it comes to support with respect to even visual abilities. And there are so many conversations which have always made us discomfortable, because when we look at these conversations now, we reflect back on this journey and realize our privileges. And when you actually get to realize your privileges, you understand how much we have missed out on. And in this entire space of work, all these missing components have made us realize back and forth that we need to work on this. We need to bring in people. And this journey has never been about helping people now, because if you help people, you are always again to trust in you from the same wavelength that you're expecting to support them too. Because otherwise, if you are continuously putting your privileges onto people, that will again make them feel guilty about the position that they are in. And we are talking about mainstreaming, we are talking about bringing people to that equitable platform, and that is how sensitivity and sensitization sessions are very, very important. It is not just about, I think, be it for LGBTQI plus community or be it for people with disabilities, be it for even women, like just imagine how many years we have been having this conversation on bringing women to the equal platform, but are they there yet? No. And just imagine in 2023 we are having conversations in Parliament about 33% reservation because we haven't yet been able to create that platform for women leaders there yet. And then comes the conversations around the various marginalized communities, and when it comes to intersectionalities, these marginalized communities become even more marginalized. So it is very, very important for us to understand all of those communities and at a similar place invest in the communities. Our trust cannot develop overnight. We need to invest, we need to go to these communities so that people see themselves reflected. I like to quote, so there is this book by Manipala Health Foundation and on queer community counseling tools. And I read this, I see you, but to see you, I must situate myself. And this is very, very true because every time we look at people with disabilities, I think in some of our approaches we have always been very static. Okay, if you are a person who is new, these are the tasks that you can do. Or if you are a person with locomotor disabilities, these are the tasks you can do. If you are a person who cannot visually see, these are things that you can do. And this has been one of the worst things that you could do to anybody, because if you're not giving people that liberty to choose for themselves, and you are deciding for them without even having them or their involvement in it, that disrupts. And this is something that we are very prepared on. I would like to state here, one of the person I recently met, you will be surprised, she's on a wheelchair without hands, and this person was operating her mobile phone with her tongue. And I was shocked. And this happened very recently, and I was like, what do you do? She works in a hotel, and she's a floor manager. I'm sure you must be knowing, or those who are staying in our hotels, that every floor has managers who are constantly visiting all the rooms and checking if everything is on in place or not. This person is basically taking all those rounds and putting everything on the group. There is this thing lying outside this room number, there are these things missing in this room. So just imagine, we can see all these reality shows, people with all sort of disabilities performing far brilliantly than even we could imagine. So every time you meet somebody, you disrupt the wall of our assumptions and you become that person that, okay, now it's time for people to choose for themselves, and this is what has really helped. With respect to neurodivergent persons, I would like to acknowledge that it is very, very important for us to be also very, very sensitive. Whilst having calm rooms, having flexible working hours or flexible accommodations is all right, we need to ensure that at no point in time we stigmatize the condition, because it is very, very sensitive area. The moment you are constantly reminding, oh, but we cannot make this change for you, and you are actually saying that you are not belonging to this place, and that belongingness has to only come very well in our actions. So we are doing that. I would not say that very, very well, but we are trying our level best, and that is why in my bio I always write diversity and inclusion enthusiast, because each one of us are on their journeys. We are continuously learning and continuously fighting with our biases, and I really wish that we all do collectively build a structure which is diverse in its approach and not static to bring communities together.
I think it's all about DI, it's all about reflection, learning, and moving forward. I move on to Vinaya. So, Vinaya, there is a very interesting debate is happening in DI space and HR space, especially about inclusive hiring. Whether to focus on a one disability type or to be open for all the disability type. So we want to understand from you which, according to you, which approach works the best, and both in terms of like in office setups and also in factories.
Nestle program, he mentioned something called job mapping, right? So what is job mapping? And I'm sure that most of you do know about it if you have done disability hiring at some point or the other. So when you look at a job and you're deciding to hire, you identify which disabilities can do the job. So you don't start with which disability I want to hire. You start with what disabilities would suit that job, and because as any organization, the focus is on getting the best talent in. And without restricting itself to one or two disabilities, that starting with that, but rather understanding who can do it, it opens up a vast talent pool. And in the true sense of the word, we're talking about equal opportunities and diversity here. And we know that every organization is looking at being as diverse as possible. Out there, it is about what you message about yourself as an organization. In a sense, to start with, this is the disability I want to focus on, is going against the grain of that intent of where you want to be as an organization. So, truly diverse organizations who have that intent would start by looking at who can do that job, which disabilities match, and then start focusing on how to get those people in. And in this way, by doing this, the fact is that there would be different disabilities for different roles. There is a possibility that a particular role may be only suitable for a particular type of disability. But there would be other roles in the plant, in the offices, where other disabilities would also. And a truly diverse organization, a truly inclusive organization, would look at bringing that diversity in.
Thank you so much, Vinay, for sharing this. And it has helped me personally, and I'm sure if there is any DAI or HR professional, this response will definitely going to help you in your inclusive hiring journey. So, moving to Siddhant. Yeah, I'm just kidding. So, Siddhant, art has been in forefront of every moment, like the independence, LGBTQ rights, disability rights. So, and like we all are working, we are in public space, we're not like activists, we're not speaking out. But there is a moment, and I'm sure like for that only we have like room full of people. So I was saying art has been a forefront of every moment. What did, according to you, like, what a role artists can play to make the art more accessible? And you have done a wonderful project. I was talking to you about that. So it would be wonderful if you can share about that as well.
Sure. Came to Bata? I see, I teach also, so I see students dozing off. I can see some of you are nodding my teacher tablets. So, can you just wave your hand, get up, like, get some energy in the room? How shout? Woo! Itna clear. Okay. No, just to shake our hand and make sure that they are listening. Anybody knows what's the definition of, or what's the expanded form of PWD? Can anybody? Person with disabilities, and how many disabilities, sorry, this is the teacher that's coming out, but how many disabilities are recognized in India right now, as of now?
21.
21?
Give your book to the person who got the first right.
Yes. Who said 21? Okay, and are all of them listed as disabilities in that?
Can you raise your hand? Can you get the mic?
Let's see which one will win. Yeah. Blue one is winning.
Okay, alright. There one each. It's like a Mario game only.
Actually, if you read the RPWD Act 21, it is list 21 disabilities are showing in that.
Yes, 21 disabilities, right? And the reason I was asking about this is because if you go through the list, there are different setups, there are different, even a disease
question about why are all these things listed under disability, right? And I'll come to my question about like the art and the role that Access for All plays in making cultural workspaces more accessible. You know, we work with museums, art galleries. They themselves are workplaces. They are places where people from diverse backgrounds come in because culture is a space that connects everyone, irrespective of disability. And when you look at these segmentations, they're about the kind of discomfort that a person feels and what are the accommodations required. And accordingly, the listing comes about. When you look at art as a space, right, like a lot of you are from business school, a lot of people from the space of art, culture, you've visited a museum or like if you've seen some artworks, one of the things is that everyone could have a response to it. It's one of the most inclusive elements that I personally feel is. Literally, all of us sitting over here, from the spectrum of hating it, like that's again a response to it. You have an association with that, to loving it and staring at it for hours at end. And I think that is the power of art because it has a two-way relation. And it's exactly like what inclusion should be, right? Your PWD inclusion, your access needs to be a two-way relation. It can't only be that I make a museum exhibit accessible, but then that exhibit does not have anything more for it. It needs to question you. It needs to move you from your space to make sure that you don't only accommodate, but you also celebrate that thing. And I think that's where the parallel happens. When I started working, I'm a trained architect. I got into this space because of my mother who's sitting here, Parmesh spoke about. Her name is Anisha and she acquired visual impairment. And suddenly you see a 360-degree turn in your life with multiple things. Society and other things, or even a simple thing like getting your own house. Like when being an architect, you suddenly start realizing she knocks herself and different things we have to get. Like, I come from an extremely traditional Gujarati family where we have an umrah or a threshold that's there right outside. Even in I don't know why we had it in our bedrooms, but we had it literally everywhere. We had to get them removed so that it was a clear transition for her in that space. That journey led me to explore, like, in one of the galleries in Mumbai, she was very politely asked to leave because they thought that she'll touch something and it would break. And that's where the question triggered about if touch is a medium of explaining something, understanding something, then how does this come in play? Technically, if you read through the statistics, India is the world capital for visual impairment, right? And if that many number of people can't go to a space like an art gallery or a museum or even a cultural site or a monument, then what can they do over there? And that also pushed me into a question that a lot of people actually ask me that, you know, when there are so many other things as architect, why are you only focusing on art or like as a medium? Because I feel it's not only about existing, it's also about the aesthetic that you bring in your life through these different elements that make it more inclusive. And that's where the journey started. We started working with the City Palace Jaipur and also the National Museum. I had a fantastic experience with a government body. I've always heard about it, but my first experience with Ministry of Culture, National Museum, and they were keen to open a gallery that said it was Anubhav Gallery, which is India's first tactile art gallery where the signage says please touch instead of please do not touch. And we also have some of the artworks here that we bought which you can touch and feel and sensitize yourself. And we started using art as a medium of channelizing discussions around diversity, inclusion and access. We made sure that museums became accessible, but if they didn't become accessible, we would take them to different places. We started taking them to schools and seeing in schools some of the parents saw that the parents were working in companies and they were like, why don't you bring this to our corporate space? And we would like to use this as a medium of sensitizing people, creating that awareness. And that's where the network started developing and we started working with different organizations, also bringing in BEI requirements and facilities over there, consulting them on that, doing job mapping, as various other things started cascading. But the beauty of working with art was that it started networking us. And my first project, and I'm really proud to say that Myra was talking about, was with the State Bank Museum, Karachi in Pakistan. I'm very proud to say that Access for All created the first braille book for a museum in Pakistan, and it was launched on 14th August, and we really feel that that's the power of art. It transcends borders. It goes scales that are there to the current numismatic collection that we have. The entire Louvre is now available in that time. We train people there, and now the entire museum shop in State Bank, Karachi, Pakistan is actually run by artists with disability who create stuff and sell over there. So I think art itself becomes a medium, and we really need to push the artists, and that's something that we do. What you see Parmesh is wearing, or my mom is wearing, there are works that are created by them, and also to mainstream them as artists first and then artists with disability later. And that's where we've been doing things. So that's the journey so far. Thank you.
Art should be accessible.
True. So sorry, and as I said, one of the things we also did with the artist community is that they should not only look at the artwork as something that they copyright, really find a way to talk about it and again position the same themselves at par with other artists. So that's where we really make accessible not only the artwork but also the industry further.
That's wonderful. Moving to Anita. Anita loved driving, and I think every person should learn. This is one of the most important life skills that every person should learn. And in my introduction, as I mentioned that we have provided driving training to more than 500 individuals with disability. So the question is, how do you do it?
That's a very interesting question. Thank you for asking, Maya. And thanks for having me here. Okay, so I will discuss with a couple of people over here. Okay, so those who know how to drive a car, please raise your hands. Okay, thank you. Parmesh, want to drive? Then I will train you as well. Good. So I got a client today, very expensive. Okay, so it's a part. And how many of you have a driving license? Everyone almost. Right? So, okay. I'll have to help you a lot. Alright, so what happens is, how do I do it? So I'll tell you a brief about my own journey, and then I will tell you how I started it. So I am 42 years old, and I lived with disability for 42 years. So as soon as I was born, I was contracted with polio. I have polio in my both limbs. I used to crawl when I was a kid. And then my parents got me treated in different hospitals, and they went to every mandir, masjid, dargah, wherever possible. They were waiting for a miracle to happen. कि एक दिन चलने लग जाएगी, कुछ ना कुछ तो हो ही जाएगा. But nothing happened. I started walking at the age of 17 after multiple surgeries with the help of a caliper. This is a leg brace which I wear every time. And then my parents were very focused on my education, right? So they put me in different institutes, and at the age of 30, I entered in IIM Indore, and I was doing my PhD. I completed it in 2015, and as soon as I completed, I entered in the academic world. I started my career as a teacher, as a professor. So I asked you multiple questions because I wanted to teacher ka job hai. So so I started teaching, and one day what happened? One girl came to me, and in one of the inclusive events in Chandigarh. So this girl came and said to me that, Anita, I want to be like you. And I said, okay, you want to be like me, then you have to appear for CAT, you have to appear for NJRF, complete your PhD, and then one day you will be a professor in one of the good universities and the good institutes in the country. And she said, no, I don't want to be like you academically, but I want to be like you in terms of driving. And I said, it's not a rocket science, anybody can teach you, go to a driving school and get yourself enrolled and you learn it. And she said, no, I visited multiple driving schools she was in Panchkula in Chandigarh, and nobody was helping me. So can you teach me? And that time I was working at the Thapar University, and her place, we had like around 30 kilometers difference. I made her a promise that every weekend I would go and train her, and that's how my first trainer came into existence, training came into existence. So I trained her in like less than a month's time. She purchased her car. The next challenge was related to license. Okay, how to get a license. And then I was not aware, during those days I was not aware of how to get a license. So I asked her, you have to go to the RTO and get your license and other procedures done. She went to the RTO multiple times. Every time she got a rejection. Then she approached to the DC and other staff, like all political staff she did, and finally she appeared for her driving test and she was able to drive a modified car. I got her car modified as well. So she started to drive and she became independent. And every time when I am in Panchkula, I had to meet her. Uske ghar nahi jao to wo डांटती है बाद में. So that's how now she's going to her office. She's taking care of her kids, picking up the kids from the school and dropping them. So this is her duty now. Earlier that was her husband's duty. Another incident happened when I moved to IIM Amritsar. I worked as a professor there, and on one of the social media platforms I wrote that I'm a new person in the city and I train people to drive. Is there anyone interested? I have some lean time, I can do it. I got 26 calls, and one call was from one of the newspaper journalists, and she released an article on me, and then that became viral. And suddenly, out of nowhere, people were aware of that this is something Anita Sharma is teaching to drive, go and learn from her. That's how it started. So I named it as Project Drive Able. I was talking to her, like I was making people, enabling them to drive. But one day somebody said, enable means सबको able करा दो, कोई फायदा नहीं उसका. Kind of like it's just not emotional. It is something which is like only related to skills. So I found that what exactly I am doing with them, I am actually making them independent to go and flexibility to go anywhere, wherever they wish to go anytime. And that's how the name Drive on My Own happened. So I drive on my own is on my t-shirt here as well, which means that I am now in the custody of my own destiny. I am in the custody of my own freedom and independence. So this is how it happened. And then when I quit my job of IIM Amritsar, everybody was like, काहे को सरकारी नौकरी छोड़ रहे हो, अच्छी छुट्टियां मिलती है, सब कुछ बहुत बढ़िया होता है. People were like asking me कि क्यों छोड़ रहे हो? When I quit, I was like ज़्यादा सोचने से आगे कमजोर होते हैं. नौकरी छोड़ो और अपने काम पे लग जाओ. So my passion towards driving gave me, to start this foundation, Drive on My Own. So then I started, the moment I quit my job, COVID happened. So people were not contacting me to learn to drive, but they started contacting me to understand how to buy a car, which car to buy, how to get modifications done, what is the licensing procedure, what is the RTO procedure, what is the insurance procedure, everything. And then I found that there's a lack of understanding. It's huge information asymmetry around the country. Every state has different rules and regulations. So I started learning about it. And I wanted to communicate it with the world of persons with disabilities within that community. And that's how my YouTube channel started. And then in this journey, I realized that a lot of people are getting independent, working towards their independence, and parents are parents, family members who always want to protect a disabled child, but then also want to understand that how can we make our children independent. So in 2024, I am coming up with a podcast wherein we are going to talk about independent living by persons with disabilities, and I am very proudly sharing today that Vineet is there on the show.
Thank you so much, Anita, for sharing this. And driving actually gives you a sense of freedom. So that's amazing.
I think correct me if I'm wrong. I think you're the only one who does this because, like, especially it's so difficult to understand the license and all of this for people with locomotor disability, and it's a big challenge. Not many people are even aware of it, even for not disabled people, like who might have.
So you're right, Vineet. Currently, there is no other person who is talking about it, and what I believe is that what happens is, so workplaces are now getting inclusive, right? So they are hiring, they are training. Just imagine how these people are going to come to your workplace. So I am actually trying to solve that problem wherein people can come from their homes to their workplaces just by driving all by themselves. Their two-wheeler sessions. In first few driving sessions, I asked parents, spouses, children to sit on the back seat just to make, just to feel that, okay, this child is able to drive. And the moment this child means the trainee holds the driving seat and sits on the driving seat or holds the steering, and they always cry and they always say, मेरी एक फोटो खींच लो क्योंकि पता नहीं मैं सीट को पाऊंगा कि नहीं सीट पाऊंगा, लेकिन मैं इस सीट पे बैठा हूँ. This is an achievement. Just imagine sitting in a driving seat is an achievement. So yeah, so this is how it is happening. I'll share a couple of more instances in the subsequent discussions with this.
Thank you, Anita. In our last event, Rainbow Reflection, where we have talked about inclusion of LGBTQ folks in workplace, and there was this extensive discussion we had on significance of data, reservation policy, budget allocation, and setting target for LGBTQ folks. We want to understand from all of you that how organizations address these points in context of personal disabilities. So we'll start with Siddharth.
So in this context of understanding the system, right, there are two ways. So one is how the corporate would approach us, like as vision consultants over here, they will approach us with an idea that, hey, we're keen on taking this thing forward, and can you let us know what can be done? And then that has its own journey together, it has its own life cycle where you are sending in proposal, you understanding what is expected, even to understand what is it that they want to do, because sometimes it's this mammoth idea that pura ek din mein dunna badalna hai, to also making it more real in terms of when the Excel sheet with the budget goes, right, what is it that can be done, what is allocated, from which segment of the company that budget is going to come, that also becomes a challenge for that. Budgeting, of course, is one part of it, but something that we have started now helping the organization and working with them is to understand what a lot of us do over here is to draw map from two ways. One is to understand that what are the open JDs that are there, what positions are available, and accordingly, so Access for All has created a matrix in that way where we vet it against that, and we look at what are the elements and which segment could you work with, rather than opening it to everyone. Or you look at the disability segment and you say that these disabilities with this particular group, this would be the requirements that you can have if your space is now accessible. So more than that, when you start, one of the questions that we also ask an organization is that it's great that you want to hire persons with disability, but are you disability hiring ready? Are you diversity hiring ready yourself? And that's where the back-end process starts of looking at an accessibility audit, understanding the site, understanding the venue. If somebody has to come in, like if I have to go to the receiving gate with my bag, or if I have to come to the reception to get my card, then is the process clear for me? Is it something that I can move in and out of the space? What are the different segments at which you would have those challenges? And likewise, also understanding what are the other soft facilities that are there. It's not always infrastructure, but also understanding the sensory element of the space, intellectual access to the site, social access to the site, and then the level of awareness, creating this whole process of providing sensitization, understanding that sensitization in different formats, right? So if I'm working on a site in, say, in Jajjar, in Haryana, I have to conduct an entire session in Hindi in that language with realistic situations and solutions. So these are the kind of challenges, and I would not call them challenges, I think these are opportunities, and it just puts you in a position to think creatively. And I think that's where the backing of art also comes in, where there's always an interesting opportunity and you can work around that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so just a random word, in hotel you are entering, you are listening to the beautiful tunes by an autistic or person with visual disability person. You're checking in at the hotel and at the reception you are watching transgender persons or you are seeing people with different disabilities working. When you are placing your order, you are either getting somebody with speech and hearing impairment or visual disability coming and giving you orders. If you are sending your things for laundry, there is a beautiful team with diverse disabilities getting your uniforms ready and sending it back to your rooms. When you are checking out, there's a beautiful team again to send you off. And when you are also checking at the hotel, there's a beautiful team who is welcoming you in Indian Sign Language. And if all of this is something that we all are dreaming of, this is a world that we at the Lalita are creating. And it is very, very important for us to acknowledge that we are certainly not doing it for the data matrices as of yet. We are doing this because this is the right thing to do. The intent is very clear that everybody should feel reflected and represented in the work and in the culture that we are setting up. It is very, very important for us to acknowledge also that inclusion is not a solo journey. Just our CMD or executive directors dreaming of creating an inclusive place, until and unless I don't have a buy-in from the person standing at the very front gate of the hotel, the journey is not complete. So we have ensured, and like Siddhant also mentioned, we have to understand that everybody should feel that they are being taught in the language that they understand well, and starting from the top. So we are ensuring that everybody is sensitized, thorough, and these all examples that I just shared, that all of this is happening at the Lalit. We have various pianists who are working with us from different disabilities, thanks to them, because we hired them from Atypical Advantage. There are so many of other NGO partners who we regularly collaborate with, and that is why I said that inclusion is not a solo journey. We have to have various partners to continuously help, support, assist us, because when I said that trust is very important in this journey, you cannot have a trust by just dealing with one person. For us, it's a 360-degree mechanism. You have to go back to even the parents of these candidates who are working and coming to you to find a job placement. You are also required to go back to their spouses or partners to understand that nobody is succumbing to the environment because there are less opportunities available for people with disabilities. And it is very, very important. When we are doing our assessment, we are ensuring that every 3 months we are doing a ref check. It's not just by the person who is working in the team, that how are they feeling working with us, but also circling back this expression to their families to understand that person is actually feeling confident. And we all need to understand that when we work with people with diverse disabilities, there are a lot of candidates who keep going back home. And they're doing this because there is no other option. And most of them are succumbing to the environments which are not favorable. And that is the whole journey that when we started, I have been very clear and I have got bias from everybody that in no unit we are going to start with just one person and see how it works for us. We are always starting with at least 5 people so that at least we create a community of people at our place before we will venture into the commitment of getting people. It's important that people find their tribes. It's important people find somebody to share their journey and commitment with. And it has been very beautiful in a way because all these NGO collaborations that we also have been doing, we are getting a lot of business. I think the Lalit is home for so many of DEI conversations beyond just us receiving awards. It has always been very, very good reflection for the commitment that now community is trusting us. There are a lot of people, like we are partners today, there are so many conversations that are being held across the hotels that we have, and people are preferably going and wanting to partner with the Lalit because they see that there are people who understand, who are committed, and who are wanting to do this. And it's not just about charity, and that is why every time DEI comes up, there are a lot of conversations around CSR budgets and going into charities. All of this is fine because we need budgets, we need to get there, we need people to be seen and reflected, but what is also very, very important is that we need to see people as people. And these people are not the ones who are looking for these charity funds or CSR budgets to be themselves or to find accessible platforms for themselves, but as people who have all the rights to enjoy every sort of accessibility and freedom like we all have read for our own selves while growing up or while working now. I would also like to acknowledge one more important aspect that since we are talking about the intersectionalities as well, oftentimes we hire and then we see how it goes around. And we in this journey forget, because a lot of times we don't set the clear expectations with people. The growth mapping, like a lot of people in our journey we hire and then they are stuck in the same positions for years. We need to have ERGs in place done, but we need to also ensure that our teams, be it HR, be it the reporting teams, are all working regularly on their growth mapping, which is very, very important beyond job mapping, because when they are sure that they are expected to grow and there is somebody who is regularly setting targets for them, that this is where you have to reach, this is what is expected, you can expect that they are also going to give you back 200% of their commitment, because they know where the end point is for that particular amount of time. And this is from there the larger commitment of bringing everybody together works, but of course taking the equity aspect in mind, because not everybody starts from the same point and the level playing field is not yet the same for everybody too. So we need to understand communities to bring everybody together to do that.
I'm sure people must have looked at this growth mapping.
I actually want to speak about the Olympics. I think they support the Olympics.
So again, like it was a very important aspect. You would be happy to know that almost 17 of our team members across the group are the ones who are special athletes. So they are the people who are representing India in Special Olympics Bharat. Gold medalists or silver medalists or are like in various other sports. We became happiest partner of the Special Olympics Bharat in 2021, and that this was a discussion when we were working around a lot of other spectrums. We discussed about Project Apna Hila, which is about people with neurodivergence. We also have Project Pradhali, which is to work with SATI warriors. And every time we wanted to belong to people, this is why I said that trust is very important. So through these community collaborations, we do unified matches. So we bring our community members and then the rest of the team members to play unified matches, be it basketball, be it football, be it cricket, so that everybody feels connected, belong, and see how each one of us are important to assist each other in our journey of inclusion. So.
Thank you, that's amazing. Moving to Anita. Anita, I have the same question, but I want you to focus on budget allocation for the year.
Budget allocation
Yes.
for the year. Very interesting question. I think
You have asked for the toughest one. You have asked for the toughest one.
I know, I have no right answer, but I'm sure that I'm on the receiver side, because the budget is educated and the one who gets some money out of it. So it's very difficult to get money from the corporate, although they have very good intention to keep everything in place, to build that infrastructure and to make everything possible. There are few things beyond budget, because I think that is, I don't want to say much about it, because that's a very challenging thing. It's all about decision makers, and this is all about how finance plays a very significant role in the entire decision making of leaders. Two things I want to take, because we are talking about strategies for success here. So success parameters, financial parameters are the key parameters of making every strategy possible and successful strategy, right? So when we as consumers, I will just drift a bit here, because when we talk about business cases in a business school, when we teach, India doesn't have too many organizations as a representative of DEI, right? Why? Because we don't have enough samples or examples. Why? Because we have just started, and we have just started because there is an international debate which is going on that we all have to become inclusive. So Indian companies also started making it possible. So we are just looking for a business case that we want to be financially sustainable if we are putting something in terms of budget. I think that is a challenge, right? So if we write, as a professor, if I write a case, say, on XYZ company, and I'm saying that, hired a person with a disability, this was the budget or that was the budget, and finally it was like a successful case study, right? So we have to prove that right, that if X crore rupees went into this particular project means that it has to be successful, right? So that is a challenge in front of any decision maker, that if X amount of money is put in to make this particular DEI initiative possible, hiring possible, training possible, then it has to be successful in every 5 years. They have to put it in terms of figures to their top leaders that we need, whatever money we have put in this particular project, it is a successful story. It may fail. It may fail. Like any other product, like any other service which they are designing. But the problem is that we are expecting too much from persons with disabilities, that you have to prove yourself every time that you can do. It's all ultimately related to the ability of a person. So the parameters should be different in evaluation as well. When we are implementing something for persons with disabilities, when we are saying that we are giving them equity, equity should be an outcome as well. Right? We just can't expect like we have to perform, but performance may be outcome different way. Don't expect too much. Just give them space. So if this is a success story, it will automatically attract more talent, more people, and then finally 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, it will be a successful story. Right? So I think in my opinion, people should keep budget in their consideration, but when you are relating this budget with success parameters, it may fail, it may succeed. Don't expect too much outcomes of it. But then do it because that's a good thing to do. Right? We all have to focus. And one more thing I would say, also keep your consumers with disabilities in place. Okay, I'll give you an example. Okay, so this is a very big paint company. And this paint company is doing everything in and out about DEI and every other stuff, right? Inside the campus, hiring, training, doing XYZ, blah, blah things. But when it comes to consumers with disabilities, and if I want to take that paint service at my home, I go to the dealership to buy paint, that place is not accessible. So it is like insider thing. We are not considering their consumers with disabilities or customers with disabilities. So the entire value chain goes for a toss, right? So we have to also consider who our customers are, and ultimately we have to focus on those customers. So I think when we are talking about budget, we also have to take care of our consumers with disabilities or customers with disabilities. We need to set up a separate, maybe a way to address the needs of those customers. I had a friend from IIM Indore, he was my batchmate, blind, visually impaired. He wanted to have his flat apartment painted. He visited to the same paint company and no respite. He was just asked, कि आप तो अंधे हो, आप blind हो, कैसे करोगे? There is no sense for colors, but then still he wants to get his home painted. So what kind of response was that to this person? Right? So we have to think of consumers with disabilities. Ultimately, they are the buyers, right? इसी की वजह से शेयर ऊपर जा रहे तुम्हारे. लेकिन अगर नहीं करोगे तो बजट कहाँ जाएगा? Right? So I think that's the always.
I would just like to add a bit on the budgeting process, because this is the conversation that every organization has, and when this was posed to me, I actually went back to all the department heads and I asked them, what is your budget for DEI? Because if you're asking me, then you're putting the entire responsibility of bringing DEI together just on me. And if it is not coming from your respective departments, how will I understand that marketing is committed to DEI and there is a budget in marketing which is only allocated to specify or highlight experiences for these community members? So you better have marketing diversity quotient in your marketing budget. I went back to the sales team that if you are not going to cater to these communities in your sales pitches, then what will my budget do? There is a lot to do charity, there is a lot to do bring communities together. There is a lot of freelancers that we do post because we want to invest in the community. But that I can look at, that is my budget. But where is your budget when it comes to work on supply chain? So if you are going and working with these organizations bringing, because hotel is a small world, you are bringing everything to create experiences. You need to come back to us at this much of percentage of our supplies are only going to come back from these communities, so this is our target. So So these budgeting processes also should have these diversity quotients wherein the onus doesn't lie on just the 20% handling DEI as a portfolio, but on everybody committed in that leadership role so that they understand that this much of investment is to go from the respective departments and the people in those departments understand the communities better.
So I think this budget thing is really interesting because I'm on the other side of the spectrum as a consultant. And one thing is that if a budget of say 50,000 is put, there's always this understanding of looking at numerical element of it, only the tangible, but also understand the intangible value that it brings, right? As she's talking about the customer or other things. What are the other elements that support that? Because it may not always be that same amount that's put in would give you that same output, but it also benefits various other things as a ripple effect to that. So I think that element of consideration of intangible support also needs to be considered by people on the position who are allocating those budgets.
Vinaya, on the same question, we want to have your emphasis on reservation in the hiring. So there is a conversation whether to have a particular reservation as Vinny is saying, 10% of people with disability will be working in a Nestle factory. So there should be that reservation or should be open for what is your take on? This was
So I think it has its pros and cons because at the end of the day, you can put a target, but it gets done depending on how it is backed by intent and action. We have reservation quota in PSUs. It's low. How often does it get filled? It has never been fulfilled. It's a 4% reservation quota, not even 10%. But it doesn't get filled at all. This afternoon, Parmesh was mentioning that in chemicals there is less than 3% of women who form the pipeline. And when you look at the community around the colleges which are in the local area, and you look at the students who are doing chemical engineering, only 27 students of all the colleges put together are women. So it's about the pipeline, right? So in a way, reservations can work and not work. So it needs more than, so while it's a good thing to say that we want to do X percentage, it should also be backed by action to see that that pipeline is built, is attractive, is retained. So like we said 10%, in that case, they have actually reached out to the surrounding communities. They have framed policies to make a place accessible around it, to make sure that they can go towards that 10%. So by framing a target and not backing it up by action, it's not going to get there. So having a target is good, but even better to back it up with on-ground action to make sure that an organization can get there.
Thank you, Vinaya. My question to you is, this panel discussion is about inclusion of persons with disability in the workplaces, but I'm going beyond the workplace. So what are the steps an individual can take to be a better ally for a person with disability?
I just had certain thoughts on the budget piece.
Okay, please share that.
So I think most of the senior leaders, if we again make a public commitment or even any kind of commitment without any budgets, that doesn't translate into anything. Ultimately, we require money to solve that problem. And if we are serious about solving some of these challenges, you need to allocate budgets for it. Without that, because we have also seen, companies saying that, okay, we let's say connect with certain organizations because they are passionate and they work for free. And that is how a lot of these thoughts are there, right? Someone is probably putting their time and effort on solving this problem. Obviously, we are not saying that you can go and pay absurdly, but there has to be certain budgets allocated for that. And the second thing is, again, it's the right thing to do, but you probably also need to measure some of these things I remember when I was in retail, a simple flash, what I used to do is every store and the number of people with disabilities as a percentage of that store, I used to just highlight the top 5, bottom 5 and just flash it along with my boss who was the CEO of that company. And trust me, in 3 to 6 months, the stores which had the lowest numbers, without doing anything, actually had more representation of people with disabilities just by flashing these numbers. So when certain organizations approach us, we said, what's the first thing you do? I said, okay, whenever you're measuring gender, have you put people with disabilities or LGBTQ? If the number is 0, let it remain 0. At least the leadership should know that that number is 0. So it's a simple thing, trust me, it works across organizations. So whenever anyone is presenting the data, put that up and you'll see at least this representation happening. And again, we need to be completely open about it in terms of budgets, because without budgets, things will not happen, right? Like a physical infrastructure, and again, this is backed by law also. Like the National Building Code clearly states to make buildings accessible across all premises, and that is where the starting point is. And this is the same for digital accessibility and some of these initiatives. And why this budget is important is a lot of this might need trained resources, additional skilling, and manpower. And yesterday I had Parmeshwar there on the panel, and he said that paisa bolta hai, and that's like all the leadership should hear and allocate that for DEI if you're serious about it. If not, then no one can help. Coming to the question on how you can be better allies of people with disabilities, and this is very the only answer to this, like you can watch them, people with disabilities in movies, films, as such, but trust me, the only way to do this is get exposed to people with disabilities, meet them, like go and volunteer for local organizations, spend more time with them. There are so many opportunities, run with them, go out for movies, go out for brunches. So many opportunities are there. I think you'll find a good companion, but more importantly, you learn about the differences which we all of us have, as well as find similarities in each one of us. Why this is important is sometimes we as corporate leaders or senior professionals fail to acknowledge some of these differences, right? Like for example, why is someone from a rural area having such a poor English? We probably would mock that person. Similarly, we might again mock a person with disability, saying that, hey, why is this person's IQ low or higher or XYZ, right? So many of these biases are there. And when you meet people with disabilities, you realize the rationality probably of some of these inequalities. Probably where the child would have been born, there would have been no school. Who knows? Probably the child might not have gone to a tuition because the roads are not accessible. Probably he would have struggled to get accessible soft copies. So these challenges, though it's evident, and the films never talk about some of this, as well as the access point of it. For example, Akshay was mentioning, right? Like someone was using a smartphone from his son. And just see how hard it is just to imagine that that's even possible. So unless you meet the community, you'll never be able to realize their challenges as well as how they navigate some of this. And I think we can only come up with a solution when we meet some of these communities. And why this is important is, otherwise you'll have your own biases, right? Like when I was in IIMs and getting placements, I remember like me, my brother, both, so many recruiters had that perception that, hey, you are blind, you will not be able to do finance, marketing, HR, or some of these roles. And right now I run my own company and I handle all these functions, right? Like 3 years building this into finance, marketing, HR, fundraising. And same way, my brother, he's an investment banker. And we probably would not have never met them and just assume that they cannot do X certain things. So this is the only way to be an ally for a person with disability, and I think everyone is asking the same, right? Like treat the same way how you would treat anyone else. So joke with them, have fun with them, tease them. You can even You know, like for example, certain times a lot of friends make fun of myself in general. So you can do all of those things because I found the best friends in some of these alleys. So I will like, for example, I cycled 5,000 kilometers and I had different cyclists who would have helped me. Same way when I run marathons, amazing people listening to their stories. Same way trekking. So they have exposed some of these things given their time, and that is how you learn about some of these differences. Like you can learn about dyslexia and autism in books, but when you met a person with autism, you learn something more. And so yeah, let's go ahead and meet people.
Yeah. So our panel is open for questions from the audience. When you ask, you're looking wonderful. I see the enthusiasm. So when you ask the question, take your name, your pronoun, and what you do in brief. Okay? What you do in brief. If you're a student, you can say student. That's okay.
Good evening everyone, my name is Anand and I am from SITM Pune. So first of all, thank you for conducting such an insightful session. My question is, school are the foundation years for everyone. So if the foundation is right, then many stereotypes and biases that develop at later stages of life can be eliminated. However, this discussion of inclusivity is very less at the school level as compared to later stages of life. For example, like corporates or in these schools. So, according to you, what can be done by the government or the corporates or even by all of us to increase the inclusivity level among the children and also to increase this level of awareness in the school? So, for example, the Indian Sign Language curriculum can be integrated in the curriculum. So, what other things can be done to increase the same?
So I work with the schools, as you said, right? And that actually came about, and it's a very important point because participants who lead a fire extinguisher, that are lying around in our public spaces. It says that one fire extinguisher can actually work in the entire space if you hit at the source. Largely, what we do, we open the fire extinguisher, ऊपर से हुआ है. That's literally what you're saying, right? Like if you hit at the source, then literally the question of PWD inclusion at workplace won't come because we automatically grow up with a mindset of being inclusive. So one thing is to look at like there are different levels, but individually and like being an ally, I think one thing that everyone can do is you can go back to your own school and ask them that what is their commitment towards inclusion, right? Is the school, there are different kinds of schools. There is an integrated school, there is an inclusive school, there are schools that are inclusive but then teach children with disabilities separately and teach children who are neurotypical separately. Again, at what level you are doing that. So I think one way is to question and take onus in your own hand. Go to the space, go to your own school and conduct workshops, spread awareness. There is so much that is available. Also, get informed about it, right? Take one course, don't take everything. Take one course and start working around that, and I think that way you can really achieve more.
I just wanted to add to what Siddharth said. There is actually a government policy which was released a couple of years ago on inclusive education, requiring schools to be inclusive. But as you rightly pointed out, even if it's there, we don't see it happening, right? Because it needs that whole ecosystem to fall into place in terms of training for the teachers. Because if teachers are not aware on how to include or preach, how to deliver that education to someone with a disability, it could be a visible disability, an invisible disability, then having a policy in place doesn't work. So as Siddharth said, it requires more than just having a policy in place, it requires that that ecosystem is built up.
Just like to add in here, so like not much work with the students, but we have a school step by very closely because there are different classrooms basis the learning support that students require. And we basically departmentalize considering the assessment that we do with the students at the time of joining, and the learning support is accordingly provided. And this is also one of the ways to mainstream education, because then you are also starting the buddy process that we are currently using at our workplaces from the very beginning. Like students who are from the mainstream classrooms are buddies to these students with learning support, and they're partnering that journey from the very beginning. And this is how a lot of these students are also part of unified sports, because it makes it so much easier. Taking this journey forward, we also started a special education department at our hospitality school. So we also have a hospitality school at the Ransom Hospitality School in Faridabad. This is one of the first initiatives, and you would be surprised when 2 years back we reached out to the National Council for Hotel Management. They were like, but how to do it? We don't know, and we don't have necessary resources, because not every hospitality school at this time is accessible from all aspects. Whilst our campus is all inclusive or accessible from every aspect through the assessment that we did, it is not more the same story for many of the other government institutions. So what we did is that we convinced them to start it with us. So this year we launched a department. Of course, the number is 5 this year because we just started. But now other hospitality schools are taking this as a role model, because with the special educators in place, with the curriculum being very crisp and shortened with requirements of the course, it is paving the path to so many others to volunteer to. And again, I'm going back to the hotel, because this is one way of us starting from the school to college and then to come and work with the Lalit in the hospitality. So one of the journeys that we are creating, wherein the moment you go to school, you don't have to fear that, okay, there is no college which is not for me. The moment you are in college, there is no fear that there is no workplace for me. And the moment you are at workplace, of course, we are all in this journey together to build a happy space for each of us.
We'll take a couple of more questions, but don't worry, our panelists will be here. You can meet them on tea break. Yeah, please.
Okay, so thank you. So, yeah. Okay, my name is Basharat Hussain. So, we are here from Fazlani Foundation. So, we have a department called as Fazlani Community Schools, wherein we, adopt NCHM schools and work with the government and to provide not only the quality education but also the inclusive, great inclusive to these schools. So now, as Siddhant and Akshay was saying that, when we talk of underprivileged people, right, especially those living in slums. So anybody, if we have people there, with disabilities, they already are, we may say minority within the minority, right? So, but what we see, what we are facing right now, the problem is that not only make it accessible for them, but on the other side, the people we also call them as normal, right? So, how they are sensitized towards, behaving around these people, and especially when they are living in slums, or when they don't have even a space for, they can call as home and go back. So how we can, I'm only asking this, that if you can help us out to not only help these children, but also to sensitize the other children by, making them experience it, or by having sessions with them, because they are not sensitized towards it, and the behavior that they have about these people is very harsh at times, and it becomes a taboo at times.
So I'll go this first. So the very first thing that we have to do is that we have to just remove this word normal from our conversations, because even disability is normal, right? And when you look at everybody from the same lens, that is from where the conversation can start, because then everybody is part of that movement, everybody is dancing, like we say, in the journey of inclusion. It is very, very important to share stories, and Vinit also mentioned, I think most of us, we are only continuing to work in this journey because we have been part of so many interesting and incredible stories, and so many inspirational people who are really had gone above and beyond in their journeys, only if given an opportunity, provided that platform, and they not just have easy access or celebrated those journeys, but have also created those platforms for so many other. Like Anita, she's learned driving, but of course that having the vision of started their journey must have not realized that one day there are so many other organizations wanting to work with atypical advantage in their journey of diversity and inclusion. Same goes to my friend Siddhant, because every time we take up a project to work with people, our experiences change. And we are everyday learning, like this experience of this, looking at this person who is accessing their mobile phone with tongue. Trust me, I tried to go back, like then I went back home, and every time I discuss this thought, I'm sure most of you are going to go back home and try this also. Because a lot of us really doesn't imagine that all of this is a possibility. So we need to bring in these stories to our conversations very often. We need to make our children very comfortable when it comes to discussions like this. And I would just like to again quote, we also have a book, Every in a Dance Party. And when we had basically introduced the country's first DJ on wheelchair, DJ Amish, who is also part of the Limca Book of Records, we thought that we will put together a story in the form of a storybook, and that is the Every in a Dance Party, which describes his journey of somebody nowhere to somebody finding his way towards the music and becoming part of this beautiful place, Kitisu, and how he has basically taken up that position of becoming the first DJ on wheelchair in the country. And there are so many firsts, and there are so many of many that are part of this journey now. So I think just open up those conversations, take them to visits to various organizations, introduce them to new people, and just expand the horizons of understanding and learning communities.
Just let children ask questions, I think, and be open to that, have an honest conversation with them. नहीं ऐसे नहीं होता है ना, कोई देख नहीं सकता उसका हाथ पकड़ के रोड क्रॉस करके अच्छा काम है, ऐसा अच्छा काम ना बोले. I think automatically that breaks the barrier itself. It makes kids understand what the other child needs. They are best at, when you put them together, they are best at figuring out, because problem solving is inherent in them. So I think automatically they realize who needs what, and they all become part of that. And I think that's one of the best and the simplest way of making children come together and learn about equality and inclusion.
Yeah. Thanks, sir. One last question from the back. Hello. They are here, don't worry. They will answer all your questions. Yeah.
So, hello, good evening, ma'am. I am Shaurya, and I am a student of Tata Institute of Social Sciences. We were immensely proud of the video that you guys have just shown about Nestle. We had one of our batchmates helping Nestle with that project. His name is Datnath Thakur. And my question is that as the youngest form of management soon to enter the industry, I would want to know what is that something as a leader, Vinaya, or anyone would want to hear from us as youngsters coming into the industry to make a case for PWD inclusion within the industry or an organization, because most of our managers or most of our senior managers are busy with their daily mundane activities, and to have that conversation, it really needs to be a case for them for us to have a voice in that organization in the first place. So how do we do that change from 0 to 1 in great time?
That's wonderful. Who would like to begin?
I think I'd like to speak from personal experience first. So when I was sitting for placement, I finished my MBA and I was sitting for placements. I had been through interviews where I was told that the interview, within the first few seconds of the interview, you can't do this job because you have a disability. So there was no question of getting down to the point of any discussion at all. It was a conclusion before it had started. So, and then when I got a job also, there would be people with whom you could have a conversation, and typically with those people, if you could have a conversation, it was usually not required because they look beyond the disability to the abilities. The people where you actually need to have a conversation are the ones who don't give you, are not convinced. And that's where you start by making out a business case for why, it's like anyone proving themselves. There was a time that even hiring a woman was in the same space, right? That they had to prove themselves, and so it's the same over here, that you create that business case about why you can do the job, and also if you're a person without a disability talking as an ally for the inclusion, then it's about how diversity actually benefits organizations. It's a proven case, right? Multiple research studies have shown that diverse organizations outperform others in the market by including internally through hiring and having employees with disabilities on board, as well as addressing customers with disabilities. Those are the organizations that have consistently, time and again, outperformed others in the market, whether financially or with market share. And this has been proved time and again. So there is a very strong business case to look at diversity and inclusion. Also, inclusion is, all organizations want to be reflective of the community spaces that they are in. And in the community, there are people with all genders, from all walks of life, from all sorts of communities and all forms of disability. And are we reflective of the communities, and organizations that are truly reflective of the communities that they work in are the ones that can connect best with the communities, and that's where the performance also comes from.
So, coming back to professorship. So, being a professor for 16 years now in the corporate world, so I can understand what you are trying to say. As a student, what you can do immediately, tell your institute that invite all inclusive organizations for placements, so that you will get that kind of culture immediately as soon as you join that organization. And trust me, there are at least 30 organizations, firms, companies which are working for persons with disabilities, for LGBTQI+, for women, for any kind of minority inclusion. So if you are up and around, tell them that we want to work with. Because you are informed, they are informed, synergistically you will contribute more in terms of performance. That will create a lot. And we professors are going to write business cases on these companies so that students in the upcoming times will be more informed. These will be Harvard cases, Ivy cases, and I'm sure that in another 5 years we are going to write case on all top 30 organizations, including the Lalit, Access for All, Enable India, and Atypical Advantage, and Godrej as well. Yeah. So this is my commitment today. I'm saying it openly. 5 years, 5 years down the line, these cases will be there.
Okay, I would just like to add one more point, because when we started on our journey of LGBTQ inclusion, we have always envisioned it as how the first conference also we hosted was clearing the pitch. So every time there are conversations, no matter what the topic is, you need to ensure that there are communities asking questions. And like when I passed from Jamia, the last day, our teachers did mention that the only thing that you are going out from Jamia with is the art of asking questions. And I think this is what we all should be prepared with. If you are wanting to be a change maker, be a disruptor first. Be that one uncomfortably person who can ask uncomfortable questions as well, and ensure that people who are wanting to be part of the mainstream are seen and heard and valued in every conversation. So we create a pitch, we make these pitches very much accessible for all people from different minority groups, so that we all have something to offer, or we all have something to be part of in this world. And I think this is how the case will eventually become.
Thank you so much for sharing this. And before we wrap up, we have one announcement to make. They are here, you can ask the questions during the tea break. We have one announcement to make. So in Godrej Capital, we have launched our ERG group for our employees with disabilities. So far, more than 20 employees have joined this initiative, and the idea behind this ERG is the active and regular involvement of our employees with disability and allies as well in making culture more inclusive. infrastructure and a policy inclusive as well. So to have a better workspace, this is the initiative we have taken, and now I request Parmesh to come on stage and say a few words about it, and as well as
thank you. All the panelists just be on stage as well, and I just want to thank you, Myra, for doing this. I know Amber is here. I know Manish is a big supporter of all of this, and everyone. This was the post that went up actually yesterday. So remember at the beginning we said there are 3 launches. First was the videos, second was Siddhant's amazing book series, and the third is this. There are 20 members, but Bodo Shuttle in 3 years already has 35 people with disabilities happily working. And my only hope is that, as we grow more and more, this number increases more and more. Bodo Shuttle, for those who don't know, gives loans to people for homes, for so many other things. And Bodo Shuttle looks at persons with disabilities as employees, but also as customers and as co-creators of projects that can help it grow, because it's a competitive landscape. And I think all the incredible PWD talent that you have on board and with this group will really help you stand out amongst all the other competitors and even grow ahead. So lots of love for the group, and when we meet again, we hope to see more and more members in this, as well as all the other ARG groups that we're trying to build over here. And with that, I want to thank all of you. Can we give our panel an incredible round of applause? So this is where we take a group picture. Of course, all of you, since part of this is also about sharing, you can take our pictures as well and put it on LinkedIn, Insta. Does anyone still use X and Facebook? But if anyone over 40 here, all of you will probably be on Facebook. Or, oh God, I'm being so ageist. But whatever platforms you use, send it in a family WhatsApp group. It's be refreshing from those random good morning messages, right? So, hi family group, look who we are with. So yeah, take our group. Everyone just, at the official photographer, please take a group picture. Everyone else also just take our photos and tag us everywhere else. That's number 1. Number 2 is, the second point is, we have, the photo exhibition by Youth for Jobs. We have incredible stalls by MAN, by Access for All, in which there are products as well as books. So while we are going out and having snacks and hanging with our panel and asking us all those 50 questions, because we saw 50 hands raised, do visit the stalls and all of that as well. And thanks once again to all of you for coming, all the students who've come on the buses, and I'm supposed to give a talk to you, like have your snacks first and come back here in 20 minutes, okay? So yeah, so everyone knows the process, right? We'll all pose, we'll take our pictures, all of you will eloquently go out, and the students will come back. Can we have some soft music for like just mood? Yeah.
Wait.